Weeknights, the most responsive and immediate news magazine on television. Newsday, weeknights, 10 Eastern on CNN.
This was the picture in Austin, Texas, the capital of that terrific state, just 16 minutes ago when the clock struck midnight. You know, Bernie, we've been watching the charming town of Granbury, and Austin sits, as we know, a little bit south of Granbury near Dallas-Fort Worth. So we're getting to see more than one place in the great state of Texas tonight.
Along with watching those doings, we also have been watching the Y2K rollover as the new millennium came across the time zones. Let's check in with Carl Rochelle at the FAA Center in Herndon, Virginia for a report card on how things look and how things went. Carl.
Well, Bernie, it looks like we may have our first bump in the Y2K road, if you will, what has been a very smooth road so far. I'm at the command center in Herndon, Virginia, where the FAA tracks what is going on at all the aircraft flying throughout the United States and even checks in with the international airspace. But we are told that there is a problem with a dozen or perhaps less than that of a system called an AWOS. And let me give you a little explanation. AWOS is an acronym for Automated Weather Observation System. It is a system that stands at airports and collects information on cloud cover, wind direction and wind speed, barometric pressure, altimeter settings, and so forth and so on. It's available to pilots who can call in on the telephone and get it directly from the system, or they can dial it up on their frequency in the aircraft and get all of this information used in flight planning and in making a decision on whether to land at that airport, what the weather is like. A dozen or less of those stations in Iowa, we are told, are no longer reporting into the National Weather System. They are supposed to automatically program that data out of their system and into the National Weather System from time to time. But the AWOS, these automated weather observation systems, are working because the FAA says they have dialed into them directly by phone and they can get the information that way, but those systems are no longer sending the information into the National Weather System. Not sure why, not sure at this point whether they're FAA operated, state operated, could be National Weather Service operated, but that's the first glitch. Other than that, everything has been smooth sailing all along. There have been no problems with flights, no safety problems, no operational problems, and these automated weather observation systems, Bernie, would only affect someone who was going to land at that particular airport who needed the weather information. And quite frankly, we're told the weather in that area is quite good right now, and you could get into that. It wouldn't be available for flight planning, but if you wanted to land there, you could call up the information on the frequencies in your radio, in your aircraft, or dial it up on the telephone and get that information. So that's the first little bump here, Bernie. Other than that, things running very smoothly.
Carl, what were officials there saying about the earlier rollover?
They said everything went just as planned. Jane Garvey, the administrator of the FAA, was up in an aircraft. She deliberately took off and flew through the Y2K time zone. Now, midnight Zulu time, or GMT, is when the entire system rolled over, and that was 7 o'clock Eastern time. So everyone was here, right on their toes, watching to see what would happen. Nothing happened. All the airplanes flew. Jane Garvey called in and talked with Rodney Slater, the Secretary of Transportation, said everything was okay, faxed a message to the President of the United States and the White House telling him that the aviation system was okay. Everything worked fine, and they used the term, if you will, everything was flying smoothly as they went through into the system, into the new year. And the system has been operating in the new year for several hours now, even though it just passed through 1 o'clock, which means that the system in Chicago has gone through, in its central time zone, has gone through its period of midnight. And moving westward, of course, the mountain zone and the Pacific coast zone out on the California. Jane Garvey will be landing in California at about 3 o'clock Eastern time, Pacific time. Anyway, she'll be crossing that last time zone within the continental United States at that time. Bernie, Judy.
Carl, so she may be landing at that empty airport in Los Angeles we saw earlier, too. Carl, just to be clear, to be very clear with people who are watching, this automated weather observation system, this small problem is no reason for someone not to consider flying. Is that right?
Absolutely, Judy. It is literally, it is an automated little weather station, small, it's computer driven. It records the observations at that airport, and it would have no effect at all. Even if you wanted to land at that airport, it'd have no effect because a plane flying over the airport could dial up that on its radio and listen to what the weather observations were at that airport at the time. The only thing it's not doing is sending it into the main computer, so it's not available for your flight planning purposes if you're going in there. But if you want to know that badly, you can pick up the telephone and dial and get that information directly from that automated weather observation system. Absolutely no reason at all for anyone to consider any questions about safety or operational necessities involved with that, Judy.
All right, Carl Rochelle, thanks very much. And now we want to go to
Mexico City. Our bureau chief there, Harris Whitbeck.
Fireworks to continue, as you can see, and I know that earlier you and Judy were talking about couples getting engaged and pregnant women out there celebrating the millennium. I can't offer you that, but I can offer you a square full of people wearing red underwear. And let me try to explain that to you. The tradition here in Mexico says that if you're wearing red undergarments as the new year arrives, that will ensure a lot of prosperity, a lot of love, and a lot of good luck in the new year. So I can assure you that at least some of those 200,000 people who are out there are wearing bright red underwear tonight. Just watching the New Year's countdown. The fireworks continue here. People are now waiting the start of a concert by Mexican singer Juan Gabriel. He is one of the foremost Mexican artists who sing mariachi music, which is the most traditional way of celebrating any big party here. That concert is going to start in a few minutes now, and the party here surely will last at least for another 3 or 4 hours. Back to you.
Harris Whitbeck filling us in on excuse me, Bernie, I was just munching a cookie. I was sneaking a bite. We're not supposed to sneak cookies on television. Some spectacular fireworks, and now we know the secret to successful celebration in Mexico. As he said, they were all wearing red underwear.
Well,
he thinks.
He reported that. And we're going to pause for a moment, and as we leave you during this segment, this was the Millennium in Acapulco, to the south and on the Pacific coast of Mexico.